Good morning, everyone. It's always a pleasure. Welcome to the Chris and Tammy show. Just kidding. Welcome to our training Saturday morning. We're actually looking forward to share this with you. Mindset is something that is instrumental in everyone's lives. And I think a lot of time people don't realize how important your mindset, our mindsets are, and how it impacts our lives. So just first, before we begin, I'd like to welcome Linda. Thank you for showing up. Nice to really appreciate your trainings on Monday. Nikki, welcome. Nice to see you here. And Michael, welcome. Mark, welcome. Nice to have you here. We have Julie. We have Inyonam. How are you guys? Really, always a pleasure to have you here. Paul, welcome. Gary, Esther, and Umberto, and who do we have here? That just Bill. Welcome, Bill. And folks, it's always nice to also see where you are dialing. I keep saying dialing in from, connecting from. I'm still in the 70s and 80s when we're dealing with dial-ups. So, Tammy, what are your thoughts as we begin this training here this morning?
I absolutely love mindset training. I think we all need to be reminded from time to time. Because of the environment, right? We constantly are bombarded by negative things, and it's to be able to tune things out and get focused on the things that you truly desire in life. And obviously, that's what we're going to talk about today is to shape up that mindset. I love what Michael says. No stinking thinking, really. For things to be better in our lives, we really got to shift, make those shifts. Improve our mindset, and it can be a daily thing for some people. I know that over the years we've constantly had to work on it. Every time a word would come up, we would be having to shift that word because it wasn't serving us. So now, over the years of practice and continuously doing the actions and the activities to improve ourselves, it's been serving us so well over the years. And if you look at my environment in the background here, you see vision boards, you see things that I promised myself. I got over here that little kitten and the lion in the puddle. Mindset is everything. Like if I look around my environment, it's always reminding me of who I need to be to get what I want to have moving forward in life, whether it's to be something bigger, to have something more, whatever it is. And I constantly have those reminders all around me all day long. So I highly recommend people do that, even if it's like sticky notes everywhere to remind yourself on your mirrors.
I totally agree, Tammy. And what we want to do here as we share my screen, here we go. What we want to do is give you a mindset, and let me rephrase that, a crash course where even though it's not like a full mindset training, folks, mindset, I mean, you could go on and on and on and on to talk about all the different aspects. It's just incredible the amount of information that's out there. But what we want to do is we want to illustrate the important areas that you really need to focus on, to get into the desired lifestyle that you want, or the desired relationship that you want, or the desired health condition that you want, whatever that may be, right? And today we're talking about a technology company, and it's a company that is growing. It's a trend. It's the future. And there's so much that's behind the scene that most people don't even realize yet. But your mindset will unfortunately be impacted by the limited belief that you have. See, the limited belief are often limited by the negative thoughts, right? It's how you identify yourself. And when you come across an obstacle, well, the obstacle will become an obstacle to you based on your limited belief. And we want to talk to you about some of those points because as we grow up, and we'll talk about this, right? There's moments in our lives that have shaped the direction of our self-thought or self-belief on the way we see each other. And it may not even be your parents. It could have been a school. It could have been a teacher. It could have been friends. It could have been a boyfriend. It could have been a girlfriend. Whatever the situation may be, that person that shares something with you that maybe impacted you, infected you in a way that you think that, okay, well, that's my limiting belief now. So these are the things that are very important that we want to talk about. What are your thoughts, Tammy?
Yeah, just think of all the things and write things down, you guys. That's what's really important. To be able to eliminate things that are not serving you in life, you have to identify them. And I've done so many courses over the years, clearing to manifest, all kinds of stuff over the years that have helped me to be able to let go of a lot of the things that were not serving me in my life. And a lot had to do with the programming going back into childhood, a lot of it. When I really went deep into the emotion of the issue that was going on, it all came down to a moment. And then you get emotional, right? You start crying. And that's not who you are. You're going to go through so many things in life. And yeah, just think of those things, just write them down. I can just think of one thing, Chris, that I could share with all of you. Maybe some of you can relate. I was that child that was so shy. I was always nervous around people, believe it or not. I was different. Like I didn't learn at the same pace that my siblings were learning. And it was very frustrating for my mom. I understand as an adult because I had children and grandkids now and all that stuff. So, and my mom was babysitting a lot of kids. So she had a lot on her plate. But at the time, it really affected me because I wasn't like the other kids. I wasn't learning like the other kids. So I carried that limiting belief with me that I wasn't smart enough, for quite a long time. And now I'm okay with being a slow learner. Because you know what? When I learn something, I take action on it and I get results. So, yeah, so many things have evolved over the years. And it's funny because it wasn't until I got involved in network marketing that I really worked on myself. I love this industry. When people knock down network marketing, I'm like, what? Are you kidding me? I mean, who you become in the process is way bigger than the prize, you guys. Way bigger than the prize. The prize is fun, but way bigger. So I just wanted to expand on that because you need to write down these things and go deeper into the emotion of why you feel that way in that limiting belief.
So here's an action for you. And I highly, highly, highly recommend that you take this seriously. If you don't, it's entirely up to you. But that training could actually impact your life in ways that you have absolutely no idea where you can end up. Is write down all your limiting belief. From all of you here listening live, or some of you that will be listening later, because I know a lot of folks are coming after the fact, is write it down on your computer, your iPhone, write it down on a piece of paper, whatever works for you, whatever way you can list something down and write it down so you can save it somewhere and reflect on those and start recognizing what are your limiting beliefs. Start there. And don't be shy. Don't turn around and kind of write down what you think you want to see or what you think you want to hear. Write down what your limiting beliefs are. Because the moment you do that, you acknowledge what they are. Now we can start working towards, okay, now how can we make this better, right? How can we make these limiting beliefs better? And
Yeah.
the fact is, yeah, go ahead, Tammy.
No, go ahead. I
Oh,
could
I
just
thought
cut
you
you
wanted to
off.
say something. Yeah. So what it is you need to focus on self-reflections. And by the way, many of you are posting some amazing comments here. And as you do, and I see that they're relevant to the topic we're talking or they're relevant to this training, I will definitely bring it up. So please feel free to share. And if I miss it, it's because I'm talking and it's difficult to multitask at the same time. I know Joel says there's a lot, and I totally understand where it comes from now. Is sometimes messages are coming through, we're talking and we're focusing and we're missing. So if I do, I will come back to them. But the fact it's important is you need to start thinking of topics that are encouraging, right? That
Yeah.
are kind of complementing certain dreams. And this is something where Tammy talked about her childhood, how she felt about certain situation. In my case, I remember my friends used to call me the dreamer. And I thought that was a problem. I'm not kidding. They were laughing at me because I had all these dreams and all these goals and all these things that I wanted and I wanted to do. And they used to laugh at me. And for them, that was funny. But what I didn't realize at the time is I was kind of the odd duck. And then my father, same thing. And not blaming my father or anything. It's just, again, it's upbringing, right? My father was probably went through the same thing. He used to say, stop dreaming and come back to reality. I remember when I
We
kind of
talked
choked
about
when
it before.
I remember him saying that. Stop dreaming and come back to reality. That is the worst thing you can say to a child because dreaming is the foundation to everything. Without dreams, we would never travel out of space. I mean, Elon Musk wouldn't create what he created. I can mention hundreds of names here of people that have created some wonderful things in our world. People have impacted humanity in so many beautiful ways. The fact is, it all started with a dream once upon a time. And in these dreams, we're converting to goals. And these goals are breaking down into steps. And then these steps are converting into action on a daily basis. What are the daily action, the daily steps that you do towards your task, towards your goal, which in turn will fulfill your dreams? And this is how you start working on your limited belief. It's really interesting. And Tammy and I have been training on this for years as we've been building our network marketing businesses over the years. And every time you do something, for example, you did the tasks in making your calls and connecting with someone, that connection turned it into a conversation. This conversation turned into an exposure to a presentation, which in turn they converted into becoming an associate or a customer, whatever it may be. You know what this did for you? It just did a human credibility deposit in a human bank. And the more human credibility deposit you make, the bigger withdrawals. What are the withdrawals? Well, it'll come across in your posture, when you present, when you speak in front of an audience, when you talk to people, when you try to get them to understand the big picture, the reason why you're so persuasive and convincing is because of your posture in the words, in the way that your words are spoken. All of this comes through to the deposit that you've made from these little tasks. To go back is, how do you solve the low self-esteem or the limited beliefs? Is to initiate some dreams and goals, and from goals bring them to tasks. From those tasks, as you start achieving them, you will create this credibility that human needs to see, to believe. And from there, your level of belief will change. And your limited belief will change. It will evolve in a sense that, well, that's not a problem anymore. You've overcome that. This is how you envision your better future. Tammy, I'm not sure if you want to add anything else to this before I...
I mean, and this is another one, you know, write that question down and constantly reflect. Self-reflection, that has got to be something that Chris and I do on a regular basis. We actually go out every Sunday morning for breakfast. He takes me out for a nice breakfast Sunday morning, celebrating our week, and we reflect on our results and things that we've done. And you know, are we aligned with our goals, right? Are we moving towards the big picture? And what are some actions that we could do that we could get, you know, faster results, or whatever it is that we're discussing in that time period? And do you take the time to do that, right? That's the big thing, is you got to sit back sometimes. Because if you just, for example, I'm just looking at the beautiful water here, and I don't know how cold it is today, Chris, but I think if you and I just got on our bikes and we had no plan, no goals, no nothing, we're not going to get to, well, we're going to keep going and going and going and going and not know where we're going, right? And there's no goals. So you're just going for nothing. Whereas if you set a goal, a plan, like for example, we decide, you know what, let's get on our bikes today and let's cross the bridge over there. Once we get down the street along the waterfront, let's cross the bridge. And then if we go up two streets more, we can ride our bikes back on the beachfront, maybe just stop and take a little break. Like, it's a plan, right? And you're setting your goals along the way. And then the actions are just so much better. You do not have time for self-doubt. You don't have time for any of this stuff, because now you can see it. You're envisioning it. You're on your way to achieving it. So you're so focused on where you're going rather than the poor me syndrome, you know, being the victim. And that's why when people are stuck or, you know, depressed, you know, going through anxiety and all of that stuff, often it's because they just don't have a direction. And they don't have somebody that believes in them, that can guide them along the process. I love our profession and what it does. We're in this together, right? And we support each other all the steps of the way. I love it. So
I
take
totally
the time.
agree, Tammy.
So important.
I totally agree. And one of the things that occurs as we move on to the next point is implicit memory, right? So what's going on is often we will do things from the unconscious mind. These are the things that I was mentioning earlier. Some limited belief in situation that occurred to you when you were a child, when you were young, or maybe you are young and it's happening to you now, but it might have happened earlier than that. And these thoughts are there, and they're embedded into your DNA. They're part of your roots. So understanding the implicit memory that will influence your action is critical to understand your personal development. So the point here, as I mentioned earlier, write down the lists of all the limited belief that you have. Why is it that every time you go through a mentor, or many of you have spent a lot of money for classes, here you are getting all these things for free. And Tammy and I cannot tell you how much we spent on personal growth and session. My point I'm saying to you is to add to my point, is every time they will ask you, write down all your limited belief. That's one of the very first thing that Eric Worre will do. As you know, Tammy and I, or many of you may be aware, Tammy and I are mentored by Eric. We're part of this inner circle. And that's the very first thing he does. In fact, we're going to his house in Vegas. That's going to be in February, at the end of the first week of February. And I'm telling you, that's the very first thing he's going to start. What are your limited beliefs? Write them all down. And you need to identify them. Now, these are people that have achieved quite a bit in our industry. So they're not newbies in this business. So they're not treat us like babies. But my point I'm trying to tell you is that's the beginning. This is where you need to begin. So once you understand what your limited beliefs are, then you can start going back in time and start saying, okay, why am I believing this? Why is this happening? And it's critical and crucial, as a matter of fact, for your personal development. So as much as we teach you on what to do to become successful in building your GotBackUp business, I assure you that if the limited beliefs are not identified for you to be able to deal with, it'll be difficult for you to get to the level of success you want, because the limited belief will always going to get in the way. And that's what I mean by implicit memory. These are the things that's in your mind all the time. Or people are not going to want to buy this. Or people, they don't understand technology. They're not going to want to do this. I'm not good at selling, so I don't think I'll be really good at all of these limited belief. It is so full of, you know what I'm talking about here. The reality is you need to identify what are your dreams, what are your goals. And GotBackUp is one of those vehicles that can really take you there. And I assure you, I often come back and I say that almost every call. If you look at a competitor, Dropbox, with 700 million users, and GotBackUp that is crossing 40,000 users, do you understand that GotBackUp will actually pay up to 75% from their revenues, profits, I should say, right, to the inline associates? What happens when we get 100,000? What happens when we get to 500,000? What happens when we get to 1 million? Don't worry so much about when we get there. We'll expand, because when there's more money coming in, there's more money to expand. All of that it's a chain reaction. But don't let the limited belief help, push you to go out there and actually build a life that you want, opposed to the life that you have to live. Back to you, Tammy.
Yeah, so let's go to the next slide, Chris. My favorite is the letting go. Always remember, there's things that you can't control in life, and don't even fight it. You gotta learn to let go a lot of things, especially when it comes to marketing, especially when it comes to the prospecting, inviting, following up, all of that. It can become very emotional when you can see the big picture of what GotBackUp has, and others just don't see it. Sometimes you just got to let go of the control and just move on. And I've learned to do that a lot over the years. Even when it comes to, partners, how many people have you brought into the business right now that are absolutely doing nothing, right? And you may be there guiding them, encouraging them. You've created this accountability platform, which we did. Not everybody gets on. Kudos to the ones who are getting on if the time zone works for you and you're not working. But if you're sleeping, you got to be getting up, because these are so important, right? But you got to let go of the attachments when people are not as hungry as you, are not willing to get out of their comfort zones. They're stuck in their excuses. You can only do so much for people, okay? And you really gotta plug people in. And we'll talk a lot about that towards the end. And it's so important not to have too much emotional attachment to others, or what others are doing or not doing, okay? And focus on where you're going with all of this, because if you're moving and you're growing, then your teams are they're going to see you do it, and that's going to be a true inspiration for them to want to do something. When they start seeing it, and then they get that feeling, oh shoot, I'm being left behind. Often people will move when they feel left behind, but you just got to keep going. Be that inspiration for people and show up and show up and show up, and just let go of all the things that you have no control over, and you're going to love doing this business. If you find this business frustrating, is because you're caught up in the things that are not important, and or maybe you're not talking to enough people, you're not setting the disciplines, maybe you don't even have a goal. Like, did you even set your GotBackUp goal, your income goal, and your rank goal this year? Have you even set that? A lot of people are like, oh, I want to be diamond, I want to be diamond. That's usually one of the first steps, right? And then the ones that, you know, who see beyond, have huge vision, will see black diamond. There's just black diamond, and that's it. I'm going all the way to the top no matter what. When you have that mindset, you're going to get up for the accountability stuff. You're going to get up for all these stuff. You don't need people to push you because you have big vision, but not everybody has big vision. Okay, so you have to, you know, inspire people, guide them, but you also got to let go of the ones that are not willing to do it. Go get more people. I always say, go get more people.
You know, the topic emphasized here is liberating power of letting go.
Yep.
It encourages mental and emotional freedom. And it's not easy. It was mentioned a few times. It's not easy to let go because we're attached. We're emotionally attached to whatever that situation. It's often the reason why often a toxic relationship will remain toxic, because that person that's in that toxic relationship does not believe they can get, or she can get, better elsewhere. And that's the limited belief. And folks, I'm not trying to put oil in the fire here in any way, shape, or form. We want to help you recognize that you are a lot more than you believe that you are. Society are trying to create an environment of a box to keep us in, to control. It's very clear. We can see the new world order agenda. Again, I don't want to get too political here. The bottom line here, it's clear as day. But you do not need to follow this. The only way that these power that be have control over you is if you're stuck in front of the TV all the time, watching the news all the time, and believe that whatever they share is the reality. It is not. Tammy and I have traveled the world. We've seen the world for what the world is, and people are absolutely beautiful. Just be careful when you watch through the media hourglass as to what they want you to believe, because they are succeeding. But network marketing is this kind of environment that liberates people. Why? Because it invites you to listen to these kind of trainings and this kind of information. So my point, to come to a full circle, is let go of the attachment of the negative garbage. And I know we're human beings. It's not as easy done as said. But it goes back to, and I go back again, as I state, lists all of your limited belief. Identify them so you can acknowledge where they are and where they originated, and the steps that you can do towards letting go of those limiting beliefs. You have no idea how that will impact your life in so many ways. So the mindfulness and cognitive reconstructing. Now at this point, now we're talking about, we need to get involved and be present in the moment. Earlier, I gave you an example where you enroll someone into your business. Well, be mindful of that. Don't just take it for granted and move on and not a big deal. It is a big deal. You know, we have a Telegram group, and I'm sure many of you have your own respective groups. It is critical that every time someone, especially if you have a personal that have reached bronze and above, I'm telling you, it is your responsibility to acknowledge that person into these respective groups. If you don't have a group, then I suggest you go to the GotBackUp Facebook group. Share it somewhere where there's an audience of yours to see and acknowledge your personals. Very important. And acknowledge some of those things so they can acknowledge some of those things, that you can help someone working towards their limited belief by acknowledging their success, regardless of how small or big they are. Because small success repeated over time becomes massive. Often we use the example, what's a big shot? A big shot, it's a small shot that keeps shooting, which eventually gets recognized as a big shot. It's really interesting, but that's the reality. Just a couple of days ago, I posted a comment on that nature, right? If you're unable to associate to big things, if you're not succeeding in doing big things, then succeed in the small things. Because when it compounds, it will become big things, right? So observe the things that you do, the small success that you do without prejudging. And reshape the negative thoughts and the patterns into positive thoughts. You know how many times I wake up in the morning? There's been some situation that Tammy and I have been facing, right? When we were at the top of our food chain, and suddenly, the pandemic, and again, it has nothing, well, it has everything to do with the pandemic, but it's the chain reaction that happens in the post-pandemic and everything else that happened after this, right? And then you wake up in the morning and you spend 16 years building an empire, creating incredible things, and suddenly, boom, it's like a tsunami went through it all. And then you have to pick up the pieces and start again. You wake up in the morning, and you know how this affects your mind? You have to work on that. And here's what I do. In the morning, I turn around and I often say to myself, today is going to become the best day of my life. Today, it's going to be one of the most productive days of my year. And you know what's interesting? Very often, the day was actually pretty amazing. There's some amazing things that happen. Sometimes they're small, sometimes they're a bit bigger. But what you think about expand, and that's my message here. What you think about expands. And keep focusing and hang on to the things that matters to you, that are important to you, not to someone else or what someone else tells you that's important. It's what's important to you. And be mindful of that. And be I'm trying to find the right word, is that you want to always be in a position to change a negative thought into a positive thought. Use a negative thought to construct that positive thought. That's what this is all about, is to increase your self-worth by being aware of when you start telling yourself those negative things that are in mind. What are your thoughts, Tammy?
As Chris is going through all of this, I think about a movie that we watched, and then we learned about this gentleman. He was an Olympic gymnast, Dan Millman. Does anybody know Dan Millman? If you don't, go check it out. I'm trying to think of the name of the movie for the life of me, but it's a movie about gymnastics. And we actually have the movie. Chris, we should sit and watch it again. It's so powerful. But then we started to read up on him and bought some of his books, and he talks about, there's no ordinary moments in life. And it's to be present, because most people are living in their past. And a lot of people are thinking about their future, and they fear the future too, right? But they're not in the moment where that's where you have all your power, is in the moment. Like these 7 a.m. accountability stuff that we're doing. Like when we're focused, when this group gets focused, it's unbelievable how much we accomplish in connecting with people. We're all on mute. Everybody can see each other on the Zoom, but nobody's talking to each other because we're all working. And you get real focus and honed in on what you need to do to connect with people. And it's amazing the results that will come out of it. So, if you're a person that's not present, this should be a huge goal for you this year, is to be in the moment as much as you can, so you can make changes and control your actions and your behavior in that moment. It's unbelievable. Yeah. So I think I'm going to watch that movie again. I have to think about what the name is, but it was so good. Yeah.
Yeah, I think it was Nick Nolte was the mentor in this session. I remember it was an amazing movie.
Yeah. Dan
Again, it had
Millman.
this
Let
limiting
me write
belief.
it down.
Yeah, Dan Millman. It's actually based on the real story about Olympic athlete. So, and again, thank you so much for all of you that are participating, that are sharing your thoughts and comments, and this is absolutely brilliant. So as we move forward here, folks, what's important to understand here is confidence and self-worth, and that we touched on that on a previous slide, right? This topic is very, very, very important, right? Because what the important here
The
is that
peaceful warrior. Yes. Thank you,
the peaceful
Bill.
warrior. That's it.
Yes, that's
I,
it.
it wasn't my mind. I kept thinking, what was it? What was it? The
I
peaceful
have to
warrior.
watch that movie again. It's so you're going to get so many nuggets out of this movie. It's phenomenal.
Yeah, I highly recommend. It might have been on Netflix at one point, or maybe Amazon Prime. I'm not sure. If not, find it somewhere. And it's worth watching. Absolutely worth watching. Right. So what's important right now in this particular case is to explore strategies, folks, to boost your self-esteem, right? Cultivate a positive self-image and develop the belief in one's capability. This is how you build self-confidence. When I was using the example earlier, where every time you achieve a success, whatever that success is acknowledge it and make that deposit into that human credibility bank of yours. And every time you do something, acknowledge the deposit into that human credibility bank. This is how your self-worth and self-confidence will increase. It's really interesting, but I had a similar issue that Tammy had, right? I remember being bullied in school. Why? Because I'm a short guy, right? And the reality here is I remember, but the thing with me is I always had a bit of mouth. Even, sometimes I should have kept my mouth shut, and that bully maybe would have kind of left me alone. But the thing is, for me, is human rights and protective ones. It's always been there. And I remember this guy coming in, and we were in high school at some point, and I had my piece of wood. I was all organized, was ready to work. And this big bully came in and kind of took my space. And I'm not going to say what I share because I don't think it's proper to say that here. But the point is, he was not very pleased because I stood up for myself. And then he pushed me against the wall. And what happened is I ducked when he tried to punch me, and he broke his 2 fingers. And I didn't know that happened. It's the day after when I saw his hand was in bandage. And then I'm not going to say what my point in saying there's interesting karma out there when you do things. But my point is you want to stand for yourself, right? And I've always had that. And it's important that when you come across bullies or situation, and bullies comes in different ways, right? And again, there's always a way to go about it. Remember, I was young. I didn't have the discipline and the words and the mindset I have today. But the message I'm trying to share with you here is that you want to stand for yourself. And this will occur as you start believing. And then I started doing karate, and then became a black belt, a 2nd degree, a 3rd degree. Then I started competing. I went to Germany. I went all over the United States, across Canada. And I've done extremely well for myself. At one point, there was a room where I had something like 110 trophies. I remember I used an entire room, and my parents were a little bit upset because, you know what I mean? Where are you going to do with all of this? And over time, I gave them away. And I wish I would have took a picture of all of this to show you guys that this is real. But why am I saying this with you? Is I took steps to help me grow and build my self-confidence. And man, did it ever. Because from that point on, I became very successful at everything that I've achieved. Because I made a decision where I could have remained the way I was based on my upbringing, stop dreaming, come back to reality, and never pierced through these limitations. And some of us here have never got an opportunity, maybe until today, to break free from this wall. That's what the session is all about here today. So tell me, before I shift to the next slide, did you want to add something to this?
It's just constantly working on yourself. I mean, sometimes we look back at, at the things that happen to us in life, and then we can become that victim mentality. But look at it as a learning experience. Always, everything is a learning experience. There's something for you to learn from that experience, and that's what's going to help you move forward. And also understand where other people are at too, so you're able to help them get over some of the challenges that they're going through, by being the example, right? You're right. Adults are also bullies and bullied as well, but you get to choose whether you want to go in, or you just let it go, like I choose to do, and then I just keep moving forward, right? So you gotta have disciplines around this area. And when it comes to confidence and stuff, when it comes to, prospecting, inviting, following up, because I know when people are new, they have those challenges. I get it, because I used to be that way too. And just connect with people. Those of you who are prospecting challenges and inviting people to information, just connect with people, get to know them, find out who they are, what they like. If you haven't talked to somebody in a long time, just connect with them again. I've been connecting with so many people since the beginning of the new year, and people are doing different things now. They're, lots of people have transitioned. Unbelievable how many people have transitioned through the pandemic, and just getting to know where they're at and everything. And guess what? When you start finding out more about others, what happens, it turns back to you, where they say, what about you? What have you been up to? And then that way you can share some of the exciting things, rather than just getting on a, connecting with somebody and just trying to sell them on something. But I'm telling you, just doing these things is going to build your confidence, right? So when you connect with people, it's about conversation, not presentation. Until they, you've piqued their interest through that conversation. People ask me to give them stuff. I don't even have to say, hey, would you look at this? They're always asking me. Why? Because we build some rapport again, just really connecting and getting to know each other. And that's what I highly recommend to do. If you're stuck in doing this stuff that's going to move you forward to getting the results you're looking for in 2024, just work on that alone, and you're going to see a huge transformation in your business. So I just kind of want to throw that in there, Chris, to add some business part of it.
Yeah, absolutely. And before I shift to the next slide, folks, what's important here, that reflection of that cat, but the reflection is a lion. It's a strong message. Where, how do you see yourself? And I want to finish with a statement. I remember I had a really good friend by the name of Dr. John Kindle out of Ottawa. And that's his years and years and years ago. And, my self-limited belief was the fact that I'm 5'5", right? I'm a short guy. And Dr. John came to me, and I forgot the exact context, but he says, Chris, you look like a six foot plus person. And what he meant by that is, even though I'm physically short, through my mindset and my posture, I'm very tall. These are moments where it actually made an impact. And I made a deposit. I didn't expect that.
Mm-hmm.
It made an impact.
Yes.
Which has actually helped me grow to the person I am today. So there are people in life that are going to have that impact on you. So what's important to understand here is, when you change the way you look at things, the things you look at start changing. And before we get to this little exercise, Tammy, is there any thoughts you want to add to this?
No, it's absolutely perfect. I think the exercise itself, Chris, is gonna make an impact. Some of you may have seen it before, but those of you who haven't, this is a great exercise.
So what is the number that's underneath the car, right? And it's really interesting because the point we want to come across here is we tend to overcomplicate things. But apparently, children can solve this in less than 20 seconds. Why is that? Can anybody tell us, why is it that a child might able to resolve this where a human is going to try to make the calculations to figure this out?
So put the number in the comments, you guys. What do you think the number is?
What do you think the number is?
Parking spot number.
And I know there's about a 30-second delay here, so we just have to keep talking until people respond to this. But
Start
this is a
responding.
really good
Most of you
exercise.
haven't done this before. Yeah, when I saw this for the first time, it took a little while, but maybe definitely longer than 20 seconds. But I figured it out before they even showed the second slide. But it's true. Our mindset tends to try to analyze everything, and where some people just, especially children are amazing. They can shift like this. They can be laughing in 1 second and crying in the next. And they're super amazing at doing this stuff. So it's interesting to see the numbers. Go ahead, keep going, you guys. Keep going.
Well, so here's
Chris,
the thing.
you blew it.
Well, I figured I put it up, right? Because I think, see, what's important to understand here is you were looking at this picture inverted.
Yeah.
Now it's much easier because it's a sequence. You see how simple the problem was?
87.
It's 87.
Yeah.
Right? So you guys had 78, which is kind of close, but it's just the numbers are reversed. But the thing is, it's 87, right?
Go back again so they see it again, Chris.
Go ahead, Tammy.
Go back on the slide again, just so they can see it again.
The previous slide?
Yep.
Yeah, you look at 16, 6, 68, 8. And everybody's trying to calculate what's the difference between 16 and 6. Yeah. What's the difference between 6 and you try to find that number. And that's the things, we tend to overcomplicate a situation. Mm-hmm. Just like GotBackUp. People tend to overcomplicate the process of installing this piece of software, which is so simple. But we tend to overcomplicate it because we tend to look at this from an eye of an adult thinking, well, this is a problem I need to solve and I never learned this. Yeah. But it's a really simple problem. So often what's happening, us humans, we create an illusion. And that illusions create and will step into our limited beliefs. So the last two slides that we want to share with you are some check marks for you to consider to create what we call a diamond mindset. And thank you so much for participating, guys. I really, really appreciate that. You guys are totally awesome. Okay, so let's move on to the next slide. So tell me, why don't we start here? What is the diamond mindset? Remember that GotBackUp as the elite diamond, and we also have the diamonds, right? And many of us started about 7-8 months ago now. It was back in May. And then we've evolved to, to the Sapphire. And then we went to Emerald. And now some of us eventually going to reach Ruby. And then the next stage are diamonds, right? And then after that, the next step is the black diamond. I mean, that's what Tammy and I are aiming for. But we know for us to get there, we can't be there alone, right? The team have to come along with you. It's like a train. Everything gets impacted by the other. So Tammy, why don't we kind of walk through the diamond mindset? Go ahead.
Yeah. So the goal is to groom your mind to reach these levels. Even if you don't feel like it's possible, when you're first, especially when you're new at this. When you're new at this, you might have had some rejections already, and sometimes that can be a real setback. And that's where you got to work on yourself and work on your mindset constantly. We work on our mindset constantly, And it doesn't matter what level you're at, right? You got to keep working on this. You're going to have great days, and you're going to have days where it's not so great, but you get to make that decision to pivot that when you're in the moment, right? You just make that decision. Enough. Get back to work. Just talk to yourself, and you'll see things will shift. So drop your fears: fear of failure, fear of rejection, fear of inactivity, all these fears, not having enough money. They always say false evidence appearing real, but you could also look at the word fear as face everything and rise. You've all heard that one before, right? Face everything and rise. When you hear it that way, you just want to aim for some big stuff, right? But when you hear it in a negative, then sometimes it can hold you back. But remember, a lot of this is based on your past. You got to let go of this. And just so you know, when you have strong faith, fear just doesn't show up. It can't. When you know where you're going and you're strong in your faith and you believe anything is possible. I have that somewhere around here. Anything is possible. Anything that you put your mind to and that you move your feet towards, you will achieve if you keep on doing it. You'll see. You'll see. Okay? You want to go back and forth, Chris, on them, or?
Sure, sure. So be willing to learn and unlearn, folks. And again, this is something that's really important. As Tammy and I have been mentoring literally thousands of people over almost 2 decades here. Thousands, I should say even tens of thousands, because we travel around the world. We had big audience and everything else. My point here is the people that I've seen that had the best results are the ones that are willing to learn and willing to unlearn, to be able to make space for new content to evolve. So be mindful of that. Be open, regardless of how successful you've been, how much money you've done in your life. Network marketing, it's a different beast. It's a different environment. And even though you might have made a lot of money in other areas in selling or succeeding, whatever that may be for you, just humble yourself and let me be open to understand what's going on here. And maybe I may have to unlearn certain things that I'm trying to apply in this model that just doesn't fit because it's not the same environment. This is not a dictative environment like sometimes jobs may be. This is a free army. People can choose to participate or not. People can choose to show up or not. Right? I see in some sessions that there's hundreds of people attending. And here's a training that we know could completely change your faith. And we're half there. Because people often don't spend 2 minutes training or participating to trainings to evolve. And that's really important, is to learn to unlearn. Next one, Tim. We have about 10 minutes left.
I just want to add quickly to the unlearn, because Chris and I we're old school network marketers, belly to belly. Some of you can relate. If you're an old school network marketer, belly to belly, put it out there. And there was many things that we had to evolve in to stay in the new times. And that's why, one of the reasons why we're part of Eric Worre's mastermind, because there's so many leaders out there that are younger that we can learn from. So sometimes you just got to humble yourself a bit and just learn some new things and see how it works in your formula of building the business. And you'll be surprised. You're going to like the new stuff. Okay. And it's not about whether it's easy or difficult. It's about whether it's worth it. You got to create that. It's your vision. When you can see something really, really big and you know that it's possible, if you do the things that are going to get you there, then you won't even focus on the things that are difficult or negative. You'll just be focusing on the things that you need to do to move forward. Okay, so that's what I recommend. And create ease. I always say everything's easy, effortless. I say effortless more than anything. Everything is effortless. Okay, and you can attract any level if you truly desire to attract leaders into your life. We do this all the time, all the time. And it's important to put it out there. What do you want? What kind of people do you want to sign up in your business? You want people that you have to spend all this time because they're going through a lot of personal growth, or do you want to just put it out there like, I want to sign up people that have these qualities or characteristics? I mean, people will come in with all different levels. Okay, so focus on what you want to attract and then be attractable. Just connect with them.
Absolutely. And if people like you, they will listen to you. Right?
Always.
If people trust you, they'll do business with you. And that's the point. You connect, you convert, you build a relationship, and in a process like trust, and then you convert. So they know you, like you, trust you. These are the three main situations. Okay, become a master and teach also of the strategy, right? Simplify to multiply. Eric talked about that. Is we tend to overcomplicate trainings. You got to simplify the heck out of all this. Otherwise, people are not going to bother. It has to be simple. You want duplication? Simplify the process of duplication. That's the reason we have our board and the steps 1, 2, 3. And there's so many tools that are now making themselves available that Tammy and I are utilizing that are creating a massive impact in the way we bring people on board. If you treat it like a hobby, it won't pay you like a business. Remember that. And often this is the problem in our business. People are treating this business like a hobby. They're not treating it seriously. This is a business I'm treating like $1 million a year income business. That's serious stuff. Don't waste my time here. Right?
And help those that are ready. This is a big one, you guys. So many people drag people across the finish line. It's exhausting. You can't carry, well, maybe you can carry one person on your back, but you can't carry 3 people on your back or 5 people on your back. And our goal is always to teach people how to fish. We put the tools in front of them, we give them the assignment, and we see what they do. And then if they couldn't keep up with that assignment, we give them a smaller assignment. And everything's based on actions, right? Smaller actions if they can't do the bigger stuff. So constantly work with the people who are willing to work, that are showing up. Those are the ones you want to spend your time with.
And that is really, really important. And when we finish on that list, we'll go a little faster here. See, it doesn't matter the size of the audience, folks. What matters is the size of the commitment. I'm telling you, we've built an empire starting with one person. So don't worry about, I didn't have the audience I was expecting. Because in that audience, you may have the person that can turn into a whale. So the fact here is, don't spend too much time on that. I'll just do the first few times and then you continue the other one. Consistency is power, right? Victory does not come overnight. We heard the expression often, Rome was not built in one day. So the reality, folks, is understand that what you're doing, building your business, your network, it's a process. It's a process that will grow by doing activities daily. It's not by stopping, holidays, this, that, and then you never come back to it. It's the consistency of doing the steps. It is easier to give birth than to raise the dead. If someone is not willing to do anything, let them be. I just know one human being that was able to raise the dead, if you understand my meaning. There's one man that did it. The point I need you to understand here, folks, is don't do things against the odds. So the fact here is, earlier we said, focus with those that are ready to focus. And if they're not ready, don't worry. Don't kick them. And remember, it's a free army. Not everybody are willing to do the work to get to a better life. There's a lot of people looking. That's who you're looking for. And don't look down on the people that are not willing to work. Be grateful that they say yes, that are adding to your customer base, that are contributing to your cycles, to the volume within your binary team. and to the use of the product. Be grateful for that. But look for the people willing to build. And I'll do the next one, Tammy. Here's, you can sell a dream. You can't sell a dream if you don't look the part. This is something that is really important. I was thinking of adding this to your training earlier, is to look the part. It's important, folks, that if you want to attract the like business entrepreneur, man or woman, you have to look the part. So it's, again, these are important. You want to maybe develop your vocabulary. Read some books that will develop your vocabulary. Every morning, spend half an hour to an hour to read a few pages of whatever personal growth book you choose to pick on or you choose to read on. So the fact here is that if you want to evolve, you need to spend the time to learn to evolve. Back to you, Tammy.
Yeah, and it can be appearance too. You know, you don't have to be always dressed up, sharp and everything, but as long as, you know, you're put together well, you know, that's what's important. How you posture yourself and you know, not with ego, right? Just from your heart and just being genuine. And often I do business and connect with people in my gym gear. You know, but I'm clean, right? So it you know, I look good, and that's what's important is whatever comes out of my mouth is the most important, obviously, in connecting with people, how I make them feel about themselves, and that's what's going to attract more people to you. So it goes many ways. So time will promote you or expose you. These were the things that our leaders taught us early on in the game that really stuck with Chris and I, and we've always lived by this. Time will promote you or expose you. Always do good, because when you know, anything that happens out there, people are going to say good things about you. Okay, if you do something that's not ethical, that will also come back. It'll expose you. Okay, so you always want to be promoted. And I'm telling you, you can do a million amazing things. You do one little thing, you see it with celebrities, right?
For some reason, can you, I think we're still on. For some reason, we got cut off there. So, Tammy, I think you're on the next one here. Great stars, attract long journey.
Yeah, and never forget, always remain humble, and never forget where you come from, you guys. And remain a student. These were always the things that really stuck for us to evolve in this industry.
So, you know, great stars attract long journey, and long journey prepares great stars. And it's really interesting, folks. You know, have fun doing your business, right? The grass is not necessarily green elsewhere. And this is one of the biggest challenge that I've seen in mentoring people. People have such a hard time focusing, and they're easily distracted by the little things that are thrown in front of them. And this is one of the main reasons why wonderful talent may be hidden by the lack of success they're seeing due to the lack of focus. So sometimes, yes, we want things yesterday because we need the money now. I get that. But unfortunately, if you want results, you got to give it time, and you got to stay the course. You got to be congruent and consistent in doing it, and stay focused. And understand one thing as we end this session here. Not everyone will. I mean, the reality is everyone can, as I said earlier, but not everyone will. And it goes back to my point that I shared earlier, is often people, again, are not willing to do what they need to do to get the success that they want. But the one thing, Tammy, maybe we can talk about this. I know we're just crossing the hour right now, so we can kind of summarize on that. But focus on what matters to you. Where do you want to be? So, Tammy, if you want to share a few words on that, and we'll end with our last slide on plugging in.
Always aim high, you guys, because if you aim too low, you already know that you're going to do less. Okay, so if you aim high and you don't hit that target, you're going to be a lot further ahead than if you would have aimed too low. And we've all heard this before. Always aim high. you will build your belief, your actions, your consistency, your vision, that will grow towards whatever it is that you put out there. So aim high, put it out there, Black Diamond. You know you're going to be Black Diamond. Set a date that you're going to actually achieve it. I like vision boards. I like to just stick it right up there and make it happen. Right? And I see that every day when I'm making my calls, when I'm reconnecting with people, when I'm signing people up, when I'm training people. I can see exactly what I'm aiming for. And it doesn't even have to be in a picture format anymore. It's in my heart. It's already embedded in my DNA. So that's how you have to build this up.
You know, Sherry, I really appreciate your comment here because, as a matter of fact, in the 80s, when we started this business, I remember when we were driving from one city to another, it was 4-hour drive, 2-hour drive. These are when we were showing up in local meetings in hotels and things like this, and doing all this stuff, paying for a hotel to stay in and going there, and your guest didn't show up, and I mean, my God. But you know what? We made these trips very productive through audio books, right? And there's so many things. And what's important here, and that's the last slide we want to share with you here today, is plugging into the system. If you try to do this like a lone ranger by yourself, it'll be hard. It'll definitely be harder. Plug into a community because the community will feed you. And if you're in momentum, the community needs you. But if you're in struggle, you need the community. That's why I go back to the point that we illustrated earlier about our Telegram group. Now, I know out of respect, there's a lot of leaders in these sessions, and we want to respect everyone. So I didn't put the Telegram group here today. But the fact here is go back with your leadership. And through your leadership, we can connect and making sure that they're okay. Because I try to be very respectful. There's one thing that Tammy and I don't do is we don't poach. We don't poach into your organization to try to lure you into what we have to offer to sell. That's not what we do. We're here to help you grow your community, build your business. This is a safe place. And I hope that everybody in here would do the exact same. So the fact here, it's important that you find a community for you to plug into so you can recharge when there are difficult moments. So Tammy, we have maybe another 30 seconds. What are the last word of wisdom as we end this session?
Always work on yourself. You're the first circle in your business. And when you're working on yourself, you're working on your mind, you're working on your plan, you're working on your vision, you're working on your actions, you're committed. When you bring in the next person, they're going to see what you're up to. They're going to see what you're doing. And you're going to be able to guide them because you'll know how to guide them. So always work on yourself. Chris and I will never stop working on ourselves, right? We're human beings, just like everybody else. You have great days and you have days that are not so great, but at least at this stage in our life, we can recognize it immediately and shift and make that immediate shift in our mind and in our actions because we've had lots of practice over the years. So it's just getting that practice in doing all of this.
So everybody, we'll end on this note. Thank you so much. I know we're about 5 minutes over the hour, but we felt that this was a very important session. Again, the sessions are always recorded. They're sitting into the GotBackUp YouTube channel on the live tab. When you click on YouTube and you go to the channel and you click lives, you'll see them there. And it's sitting there. And also Tammy and I take a copy of that link and we refer it into our boards. If you go into past recorded calls, you can actually see them there also if you happen to have access to that. So everybody have yourself a wonderful rest of your weekend. And we really appreciate you. And we recommend that every week as you come into this session, don't show up alone. If you show up alone, you will learn. But if you show up with your team, I assure you that you will earn what you learn. Have a great weekend, everybody. And bye for now.